Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really profound source text today titled South American Travels. And right off the bat, I have to tell you, this is definitely not your typical breezy travelogue. This chronicles a massive trip taken by the author and his brother during the summer of their junior year of high school. But as we unpack this journey, you're going to see that this wasn't just a fun little vacation. No, this was a literal initiation into the world. It's a story about how travel totally stretches your mind, softens your heart, and turns the entire globe into a living, breathing teacher.
Now, you might think a quote like this came from some rebellious teenager, but actually, it came from the author's own high school principal. Seriously, when the brothers realized they had this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to extend their trip into the actual school year, they called home. Their parents talked to the principal, and he gave them his full blessing with those exact words: "You'll learn more traveling than in school." That completely sets the stage for everything we're about to dive into. It's an escalating journey of awakening where real lived experience completely trumps classroom theory.
First stop on the journey, Brazil, the first doorway.
So, the adventure kicks off in Rio de Janeiro, but they weren't staying in some shiny, sanitized tourist hotel. Through a surfing buddy named Steve Lamonging, they wound up crashing with his roommate's family, a Chinese family that ran a local restaurant. For the author, living in this house meant mornings didn't start with your standard American bowl of cold cereal or a piece of toast. Instead, it was a steaming, simple, deeply nourishing bowl of soup. That sensory detail right there was a total revelation. It was the exact moment he realized that culture isn't just something you memorize from a textbook, it's something you taste and smell and live on a daily basis.
But, Brazil offered some incredibly harsh realities right alongside the beautiful ones. On one hand, you're standing up there on Mount Corcovado, right next to Christ the Redeemer, looking out at this breathtaking, majestic panorama of Copacabana and Ipanema. It's just this unbelievable collision of ocean, mountains, and humanity. But then, right alongside that pristine beauty, is the severe, heart-imprinting poverty of the local shanty towns. Seeing millions of people living in those conditions generation after generation, it just leaves a mark on you. It forces you to reconcile how two completely different worlds can occupy the exact same space.
So the big takeaways from Brazil become really clear. Beauty and poverty coexist. Culture is deeply lived, and maybe most importantly, kindness pops up everywhere. The author talks about a trip to Cabo Frio. It's this quiet beach town a few hours outside of Rio. It was winter, the weather was hovering in the low 60s, and yet a local Portuguese family completely took them in, befriended them, and showed them around. Finding that kind of unexpected warmth in a chilly beach town really cemented those core lessons for them.
Next up, we cross into Argentina, family and fire.
The brothers ended up staying here for an entire month with high school exchange students. They lived with a guy named Pedro Vecina, who had actually stayed with their own family back in the States 2 years prior. And wow, they discovered a wildly passionate culture here. I mean, the nightlife didn't even start until midnight, and 16-year-olds could just casually order whiskey. But despite that chaotic, fiery rhythm, the people's priorities were so incredibly grounded. Family and friends first, work second. They treated the author like total family, introducing him to his first café con leche and authentic Pampas cowboy barbecue. It just proved that human connection is the absolute ultimate currency.
And amidst all this cultural immersion, you get these completely surreal, laugh-out-loud moments. So the author is on a tour of a government building, translating Spanish to English, and he walks into a room where two guys are playing chess. One of those guys? Bobby Fischer. Yeah, the Bobby Fischer. Literally one of the greatest chess players in human history. And they just nod politely and keep walking, like it's the most normal thing on earth. It's this wild Forrest Gump kind of anecdote that perfectly nails how unpredictable travel can be.
Argentina is also just a land of fascinating contradictions. The rhythm of the country is so fast and passionate. People drive exactly like they dance, fearless. Stop signs are basically treated as mere suggestions, and sometimes a quick bribe waves away a ticket. But then, in total contrast to that street-level chaos, their long-distance bus infrastructure was absolutely luxurious. We're talking a first-class service that outshines a lot of modern airlines today. Wrapping up the Argentina chapter, the main lessons are undeniable. Family truly is the backbone of life. Culture is an infectious rhythm, and again, kindness is universal. The author felt this deeply during a stay in Mar del Plata with a dear family friend, Graciela Di Iorio. He actually braved freezing, icy waters there just for the thrill of surfing a brand new frontier.
Moving right along, we enter Ecuador, fruit, surf, and mountains.
The narrative shifts here to a land of just stunning geographical diversity.
The brothers stayed with Eduardo Peña, another former exchange student. Down on the coast, in this sleepy little beach town called Playas, the author surfed a warm, perfectly peeling point break. And get this, he was surfing alongside Eduardo's friend, Victorio Pescado, who just happened to be a famous Spanish bullfighter. But then, a short trip later, they're staying with Eduardo's grandmother in Cuenca, and the environment shifts completely. Suddenly, they're in the cold, unheated, incredibly silent, high-altitude charm of the Andes Mountains.
Ecuador left a really distinct spiritual footprint on them. First off, food is love. This was a lesson taught by Eduardo's housekeeper, who whipped up these unbelievable batidos, fruit smoothies blended from mango, banana, papaya, and fruits the author literally couldn't even name, all paired with perfectly fried plantains and rice. Second, mountains carry this heavy, profound silence. And finally, surfing acts as a universal language. I mean, it's what connects an American high school junior with a Spanish bullfighter in a sleepy coastal town.
Okay, here we go. Section 4, the Galapagos, the pristine frontier.
3. That is the exact number of weeks the brothers were late returning to their high school back in the States. And you know what? It was completely justified by their principal's earlier blessing. They knew that prioritizing this specific, life-changing leg of the trip over the first few weeks of junior year was absolutely the right call.
Because stepping out of the human world entirely meant getting rare permission from the Ecuadorian Navy to visit these heavily protected islands. And the logistics of getting there were just wild. They literally boarded an old U.S. Navy World War II ship that was being operated by the Ecuadorian Navy. And at that exact time, there was an active tuna boat war going on between Ecuador and the U.S. over fishing rights. So picture this. These American teenagers are hitching a ride on a foreign military vessel that is actively hunting for American fishing boats. You can't make this stuff up.
But once they arrived, the scale of exploration was just breathtaking. They didn't just hop onto one beach. They moved from Santiago to San Cristobal, onward to Isabela, Fernandina, and finally Española. This was a deep, sustained movement through one of the most sacred, untouched corners of nature left on the planet.
And the things they witnessed out there. It was a total sensory overload of pristine nature. They stood right beside these ancient, massive, wise, giant tortoises. They had seals literally jumping playfully right over their heads. As a surfer, the author watched absolute perfection. Empty, untouched waves breaking flawlessly for over a minute at a time, completely unridden. They walked among hundreds of camouflaged iguanas that were totally invisible until they suddenly blinked or moved. And they shared this profound isolation with just a few rare kindred spirits they met along the way, like an Argentine poet and a really kind American couple.
So what do you learn from a place like that? The Galapagos acts as a living, breathing teacher. You learn that nature is sacred. In an environment like this, evolution isn't just some theory in a textbook. It is literally visible to the naked eye. Silence itself becomes your teacher, and you walk away with this absolute awe, realizing that the world is completely, dynamically alive.
Which brings us to the final chapter, the Ledger of Travel, an Awakening.
Let's pull all of this together. The source text makes it crystal clear. This was not just a vacation where you buy some cheap souvenirs and go home exactly the same. It was a true awakening. Every single location acted as a spiritual teacher. Culture expands your consciousness. Kindness effortlessly crosses borders. Coming face to face with poverty awakens deep compassion. Food carries human identity. Shared passions, like surfing, act as a universal language. Nature is divine. Travel is, hands down, the ultimate education. And finally, the world is a mirror. It reflects back the exact energy and openness that you bring to it. The text really suggests that destiny itself was guiding these boys' steps so they could learn these exact lessons. This all circles back to a beautiful concept from the text called Zorn's Whisper. It's the idea that every country is a teacher, every moment is a signpost, and every single experience prepares you for the path you walk right now. So I want to leave you with a question, reflecting on everything we've just unpacked today. How are your own travels, whether you're flying across the globe or just exploring the different cultures in your own city, preparing you for the path you're walking today? Keep that in mind the next time you step out your front door. Thanks for hanging out with me on today's Explainer, and as always, keep exploring and keep learning.